Love the intro too. It's so nice.
All right, welcome. Let me go ahead and do this so you can see us. Hello to Miss Diva Divine Light. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, everyone in the chat. It's Diva Divine.
How
How are
are
you, Miss
you this evening?
Esquire?
I am good. How are you, Diva?
I'm good. I'm good. Hanging in there, preparing for the holiday this weekend.
Yes. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you. Same as you.
All righty. So, good evening to everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Empowered Esquire TV. Now, if for some reason you are unfamiliar with Miss Diva Divine Light, allow me to catch you up to speed. She is an amazing content creator here in the YouTube space. She focuses mainly on advocating for victims, and she has done a lot of awesome work in chronicling the entire debacle with R.Kelly, all of the victims, and the entire trial. So if you have an interest in what's been going on with R.Kelly, head on over to her channel. I'm going to ask, I don't see any mods in here yet. No, wait, Doug. Doug, are you a mod? Any mods who are in the building, please put the link to Diva's channel in the chat so that all of the viewers can check her out. Diva, is there anything you'd like to say in
Yes, thank
regards
you.
to introducing yourself before we dive in?
Well, yes, as she said, my channel is devoted to R. Kelly's debacle. And the things that come up in his everyday life as time goes on. I am keeping up to date with that. And he's got a lot of things to deal with. That's for sure, Miss Esquire. Don't you think?
Yeah, that is absolutely for sure. That's a bit of an understatement, I think. Um, right? Yeah.
Right. They're
Because he's
just piling it on
facing
him.
right. I mean, he's facing criminal action. He is facing civil action. We know that he's been feeling the financial crunch for quite some time now, right? Because they had the whole mute R. Kelly movement. A lot of his music was removed from streaming services and things like that. So,
They
yeah,
removed
he's
his
he's got
YouTube channels as well.
he's got quite a lot on his plate. So you're right about that. So let me ask you, Diva, what do you
Yes, ma'am.
know of a man named Kenny Bryant and his wife?
Well, Kenny Bryant was a sheriff in Mississippi, in Hines County, I think it is. Hines County in Mississippi. And he had met this woman, and she's a school teacher. And they got together. And in the time that they did get together, in back in like 2012, a little bit before this time, they she had an affair with R. Kelly. She was seeing R. Kelly before she got with Mr. Kenny. So in that time, he knew about the relationship about with her and R. Kelly. And then as time went on, she stopped seeing R. Kelly, according to him. And then they were seeing each other. And then maybe like months into that, of them being with each other, maybe a year, let's say, they wound up getting married. And then a few months after them being married, they got married in June or July of 2012. And then in October of that year, she wound up going to a concert to see R. Kelly and wound up going right back to R. Kelly's arms and having an affair with R. Kelly behind her husband's back. And then he found out about it months later. In the process of that time that she was seeing R. Kelly, according to his lawsuit, he didn't have any sexual contact with his own wife. So he's suing R. Kelly for depriving him of his livelihood of having his wife to appease his needs.
And let me ask you, did his wife have anything to do, that you know of, with all of the accusations and the trial and the eventual conviction regarding R. Kelly's intimate behavior with female and male victims?
Not at all. Not at all. She's not claiming herself to be any type of accuser. She's not bringing up any allegations against him. According to her, she was in love with R. Kelly. She loved him so much that she wound up getting a divorce from her husband to go back to R. Kelly. But as we all know, R. Kelly and her are not together. So I don't know what happened, you know, prior to the divorce. It led up to the divorce, and after the fact, obviously she didn't go back to her husband, and she didn't for sure stay with R. Kelly. And they do have two children together, by the way.
So the husband and this woman have two children together.
Yes.
Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought you meant R. Kelly.
No, no, no. He
I
has
was
two
about to
children.
say,
Kenny wound up in their marriage, in the course of their marriage, they wound up having two children.
okay, so at some point she was with her husband, right? I mean,
5 years. Yeah.
okay, okay. All righty then. So interesting to get that backstory, because what we're going to do next is talk about the actual, we'll dive into the documents of the actual lawsuit. Per usual, Diva's going to chime in whenever she has either a question or a comment, and I'm going to
Yes.
give you the legal background on this lawsuit. And then we are going to talk about some of the recent occurrences in this lawsuit, because as you will see, the lawsuit was filed years ago, but because R. Kelly had all of these criminal cases that were open and ongoing, and he had this trial, and this lawsuit ended up getting put on the back burner while his criminal cases went to trial. So you'll notice that the actual suit was filed a while ago, and it's just now that Mr. Bryan is really getting to see any movement in his case.
Yeah, it started from 2012, their relationship, and the lawsuit was in 2017. So in the 5 year span, he was trying to reconcile his relationship with his wife while all of this was going on back and forth, and she had children in the process.
Interesting. Alrighty, well, I have pulled up the actual lawsuit that was filed in this matter. And we are going to start diving into that, shall we? So, per usual, whenever we talk about lawsuits on this channel, I always tell you some things that you could look out for to know if a lawsuit is genuine, right? So, we always discuss things like this, right? Your case number and your document number and all of that information being at the top of the page, showing that it was filed somewhere. We now see that, as Diva said, this was filed in the circuit court in Hinds County, Mississippi. We see that a person named Kenny Bryan is the plaintiff, and we see he's listed here quite a few defendants, right? So we see Robert Sylvester Kelly. We know that that is R. Kelly, the individual, right? But we also see Rockland Records, R. Kelly Touring, 865 Larrabee, Bass Productions, The Lyric Room, Titsy, interesting name, R. Kelly Publishing Inc., and a bunch of John Does. So let me say to both Diva and the chat, why do you think that Kenny Bryant didn't just sue R. Kelly? Why does he have all of these other parties on the lawsuit?
Well, to what I think is because they all played a part in helping maneuver the wife from the hotels to the concert to her home and things like that. helping her with tickets, more or less the Mann Act.
So akin to the Mann Act, right? Uh, R. Kelly more than likely had other people that were involved in his affair with this woman, if you will, right? His alleged affair. Because as we know, he did not really do much for himself. So we know that if she needed to be taken somewhere, he probably had a driver do that, right? We know that he probably had an assistant that would set up their rendezvous and all of these things. So Diva was right on point with saying more than likely Mr. Bryant is going to allege that there were parties from all of these companies that all conspired with R. Kelly in his affair with Mr. Bryant's wife, right? More than likely, that's the allegation.
Right. It's kind
So,
of like a racketeering.
right. So now let us continue. Alrighty, so we see a jury trial demanded. That's the norm. We now see us getting into here the parties that are involved, right? We see the plaintiff is a resident of Hinds County, Mississippi. So remember, in order for a court to have jurisdiction, some party has to be relevant to that area. This is how they're bringing that in. They're saying, hey, Kenny Bryant is a resident of Mississippi, which means that he can bring this lawsuit in Mississippi. Now, you may also be wondering, why is that important? And here is why. There are not very many states that recognize certain types of lawsuits when it comes to marriage and affairs and things like that, right? We are living in a modern world, right? And marriage is no exception to that. And so many courts have viewed affairs and things of that nature as something that if someone chooses to do it, they choose to do it. So you have to be in very specific states to be able to sue someone for the damage they have done by having an affair with your spouse. That very specific type of action has to be brought in a very, very specific state. And Mississippi is one of those states where you can actually sue someone for having an affair with your spouse.
Miss Esquire, I have a
Yes.
question.
Hmm.
Um, I saw another blogger. His name is the non-lawyer, and he was talking about jurisdiction. And in here, it talks about jurisdiction venue, and he's stating that how can he bring forth char? How do you know that these actions were taken in Mississippi? Can he sue in Mississippi, even though, say, the affair happened in Georgia?
So this man really is a non-lawyer. Bless his heart. Mr. Bryant is a resident of Mississippi. Mr. Bryant is a resident of Mississippi. So he can bring a lawsuit in Mississippi. It does not matter where the actions occurred. Now,
I figured
the
that.
attorney,
And
yeah, the attorney on the other side can argue, oh, well, Your Honor, we think that Illinois is a better venue. And we think that because most of the events occurred in Illinois, most of the parties are in Illinois, blah, 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 right? They can make that argument and let the court decide. But Mr. Bryant will probably be allowed to keep this lawsuit in Mississippi. And as long as you are a resident of that area, more than likely the court will allow you to proceed with legal action there.
okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, let me take a moment to shout out everybody in the chat. Hello to Health Light. Hello to Doug. Hello to Tarsha. I see you're an OCOV family member. Welcome. Hello to Aku Cromanti. Hello to Quack 13. Hi, Midnight Green. Hi, Johnny Davis. Hi, Roger Sherman II. I always loved how distinguished your name sounds. I think I said hello to Doug, right? But if I didn't, hello, Doug. How are you? Hello to True Strong Warrior and I Am Queen, more OCOV members in the house. Hello to the Green Hipster. And hello to Black Anonymous. Welcome, everyone. Soundboard on the way, by the way, because I want to start applauding you all and making little sounds, to welcome people into the chat. But anywho, welcome, welcome, welcome on this 23rd day of December. Happy holidays to all of you. And I am so blessed and honored to have you here with me and my esteemed guest, the one and only Miss Diva Divine Light. All right. Okay,
Hello,
so
everybody.
all right, I see a couple more people coming in. Hello to Nappy Yankee and Beach Waves. So let's get back into the lawsuit, shall we? So then the suit goes on to detail that the first defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, is also known as R. Kelly, and he resides in Illinois. They then go on to list each company that is listed as a defendant and give the court kind of a brief idea as to why this party is involved. So for the third paragraph, you see Rockland Records is a business that was incorporated by Robert Sylvester Kelly with a registered agent named Steven Sandler. Then for the fourth paragraph, they go into R. Kelly Touring, right? Which they say is another one of Robert Kelly's businesses with no registered agent. They then go into Larrabee LLC, which they say is another one of R. Kelly's businesses with the registered agent Steven Sandler. Paragraph 6, they go into Bass or Bass Productions, which they say is also yet another business incorporated by Robert Sylvester Kelly. They go into the Lyric Room, another R. Kelly business with a registered agent named Gerald Jones. They go into Defendant Titsy, which they say is yet another, this man, pause for the cause. This man has so many companies tied to his name. Now, I have to say this, people with large amounts of wealth do usually have an LLC, which they use to do certain types of business, right? However, I am not familiar with there being this many different companies, tied to and registered under one person. I mean, this is quite a bit. Quite a bit.
May I interject here?
Yes, you may.
Um, R. Kelly has a lot of these businesses due to his manager, Daryl McDavid. Daryl McDavid also has properties underneath R. Kelly's name as well. Daryl McDavid was his accountant. Daryl McDavid handled all his finances. Daryl McDavid robbed R. Kelly, allegedly. This is all allegedly. But as far as the businesses go, yes, this is true. R. Kelly has all these businesses because they funnel things, they do things, Um, Daryl McDavid has a whole couple of businesses with his partner, something Winkler, and they're both accountants and agents, and they have businesses. And Daryl McDavid and Mr. Winkler also have homes under RSK Enterprise. Just wanted to let everybody
So
know that.
that's very interesting. So what we're hearing from Diva is R. Kelly's former manager. I got that right. That's his title, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So apparently R. Kelly's former manager was allegedly, because we don't know what has been proven or what hasn't, right?
Right.
Living in properties owned by these companies, establishing all of these different companies, and allegedly funneling money through these companies, which he then pretty much funneled into his own pocket. Which, let me say this, despite everything that R. Kelly has been convicted of, I do believe that he is illiterate. I believe when he says that he cannot read or write. And I think this is one of the dangers of being illiterate, because I'm sure that he relied so much on this McDavid person because he really couldn't decipher things on his own. Because really, a manager should not have this much of a handle on your finances, your businesses, your properties, right? That's not the norm. But I imagine that happened because R. Kelly is not literate.
Right. He had him dealing with everything. He dealt with all his contracts, all his dealings, his tours, everything. He had a hand in his bank accounts, everything. Daryl McDavid was the man that he was the money man. He was the man you go to, you get the money gets distributed to one of the runners, and the runners give R. Kelly the money.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, The dangers of, not being able to advocate for yourself, right? That's crazy. Alrighty, so I'm gonna hop back into the lawsuit. Okay, so something that I wanted to note for a teaching moment is registered agent. Let's see here. How do I highlight things? Where's my highlighter? Is this it? No, this is it. I don't know why I always choose the wrong thing. Okay, so I want to note. It won't let me. That's okay. So I want to note the term registered agent. I'm going to put that in the chat for you all. If you're not familiar with businesses and how businesses are established, right, you may not be familiar with what a registered agent is. So a registered agent is the person that is designated by the company to receive correspondence, to receive mail, pretty much the spokesperson, if you will, representing the company to the world. And the most important part of that is if the company is sued, the registered agent is expected to be the person who receives that service. Okay. All right.
Now,
So,
so
go
even
ahead.
if these companies are dissolved, are these agents still responsible?
So that's a very good question. It depends on how the company was dissolved. So if a company is dissolved properly, then it handles all outstanding business and then it files its dissolution. And then, no, the registered agent is totally off the hook, right? But if a company does not dissolve properly, they do not tie up all unfinished business, they do not file proper dissolution papers, then yes, a registered agent could still be on the hook for receiving service or receiving correspondence or anything like that.
Interesting. Okay. Thank.
Hmm. And salute to you as well, PGH Big Dog. Nice to meet you. I think you're a newbie, so welcome. All righty. Let's get back into it. So they then go on to list here in paragraph 10 some John Does. So it states defendants John Does 1 through 10 are persons and or entities that may be liable for some or all of the claims set forth herein. Their identities are not yet known, but when discovered, they will be substituted herein. Now that sounds like a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, does it not?
Yeah, I was like kind of like iffy on that too. I'm like, what? John Doe's 1 through 10.
It
What are we?
sounds like
Who,
a
who,
bunch of
who else?
mumbo jumbo.
Running. Who else are we trying to accuse in here?
So here is what this is. Essentially, Diva, these are placeholders. When someone is suing another person that is this deeply entrenched in all these different organizations, right, such as R. Kelly, they can kind of foresee that, there might be people involved that I don't even know about yet. So they use this John Doe as placeholders. And then as they become aware of these people that they didn't know about yet, then they sub them in, right? They substitute them in. They start adding them in place of the John Doe. So as Quack is saying in the chat, this was a very smart thing on behalf of Mr. Bryant and his attorney. Because yes, I am sure that through R. Kelly's deposition and through deposing other witnesses and discovery, they are going to discover other people who may have deep pockets that were involved. And then all they have to do is sub them in place of John Doe.
Wow. Who knows if they might want to add Daryl McDavid? Hmm.
Right? See, you never know, right? So, yes, this was a smart thing. You are right with that, Quack 13. All righty. So now we get into jurisdiction and venue. We have covered jurisdiction and venue many, 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 many times here on this channel. So you can check out really any of our videos to hear that discussed, right? But the gist of it is the plaintiff has to show the court that this particular court is the right place to be and that they have jurisdiction over this specific cause of action. So, in other words, Mr. Bryant has to show the Circuit Court of Hinds County, hey, I have the right to be here suing someone in Hinds County. Oh, and this circuit court, they have control over whatever my problem is. Right? There you go. And he does that sufficiently enough here. Then he gets into his factual allegations. And now, everyone, it gets juicy. So he says that he was married to a woman named Asia Childress. He said they got married in 2012 and that they were happily married until the wrongful actions of defendants irreparably injured their relationship.
Dun dun dun.
Uh-huh. Now, for those of you who are wondering how on earth could he sue R. Kelly, this is how. He is going to allege, as we continue through this lawsuit, that were it not for the actions of R. Kelly and these other people, he would still be married, they would still be happy, everything would be fine and dandy, right? Many people refer to this as the but for clause, but it is how a plaintiff links the actions of the defendant to the injury that they suffered. It's how you link what someone did to the pain that you're now going through in order to ask the court to do something about it, right? It's all one big circle, it's all connected. And it's something that Mr. Bryant has to do to be successful in this lawsuit.
And it's called the but what?
The but for clause, right? But for the actions of this person,
For. But
I would be
for
fine.
clause. Okay.
Right. And so that's what Mr. Bryan is saying here. He's saying, but for R. Kelly and his cronies, me and Miss Childress would still be happily married.
Right, right.
Okay,
So he's
so
like, you came into my home and you destroyed it, sir.
right, he's pretty much calling R. Kelly a homewrecker, which I mean, considering his history and his music, I don't think is a far reach.
Right.
I mean, let's be real. Is it a far reach? Really?
He
I don't
did
think
make
so.
that song I'm a Flirt for a reason.
Thank you. In which he pretty much says, and let me tell you, if Mr. Bryant's attorney is on his job the way that it looks like he might be on his job, and I'm saying he, and I have to admit that's wrong of me. Let me do something here to make sure that I'm correct because I could be wrong, and that's just totally not nice. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that looks like okay, so it looks like one male attorney, one female attorney. So okay.
Yeah, one and
So
one. Yeah.
if his attorneys are on their job as they should be, right? That song, I'm a Flirt, that song in particular, Diva, where he talks about, oh, don't bring your girl to me. Oh,
Right.
don't bring your wife around me. That song
Right.
should be entered as evidence. They do their job correctly. That song should be evidence at a trial. And he should be questioned about that song at his deposition.
That's funny. Yo, and I'm gonna go behind the scene. I'm gonna Google real quick when that song came out.
I would love to know because let me tell you, can you imagine a deposition where Mr. Carson or Miss Powers shows up with the lyrics to that song and has R. Kelly admit to each lyric? Green Hipster, you think they could pull a DMX? What do you mean by that, Green Hipster? Can you elaborate? Alrighty, Sheba Mooncat says, so is this the same situation that Fantasia was in? When she had a baby with the married man and his wife sued her? Correct. Correct, Sheba. This is a very similar situation.
The song came out in 2007.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, then. Good to know. All right, so we're going to head back on up and dive more into the factual allegations. Now, Mr. Bryan says here in paragraph 13 that unbeknownst to him, meaning he did not know what was happening, R. Kelly became involved in an intimate extramarital relationship with Childress in October of 2012, regularly communicated with Childress, and has had multiple in-person visits with her over this period of almost 5 years. So here Mr. Bryan is saying, I had no idea what my wife was up to, but she started having an affair with R. Kelly in 2012. And from 2012 to now in 2017, she has been seeing R. Kelly. Okay. All right. He then goes on to list exactly how that happened. He talks about the fact that allegedly his wife would talk on the phone with R. Kelly. She would text message him, and she would also have live visits with him. So actual, in-person contact. He then goes on to say that due to this adulterous relationship, she left the marriage. Now, here's a
Right.
question.
Now, Miss Esquire, they
Yes.
got a divorce. In the divorce, do you think he could have sued her in the process? I wonder if I could try to get my hands on that divorce paper.
So, if you could, it would be interesting because this may actually be mentioned in the divorce. Now, mind you, she left the marriage, which insinuates that she
Right.
filed the divorce. So perhaps it's not, but maybe he brought it
That's
up
what I was
anyway.
thinking. That's
Right.
exactly what I was thinking.
Maybe he brought it up anyway. You never know. And let me ask everyone in the chat this, and this is also a question for you, Diva. Do you think that Mr. Bryan is going to be able to prove that the affair with R. Kelly is why Miss Childress left him? Do you think he will really be able to prove that there was no other reason why she could have grown sick of the marriage and left?
I would say the only way he would have proof of that is if, like, maybe they had some text messages back and forth, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sick of you. I don't want to be with you. I want to be with R. Kelly. Hurry up and give me this divorce," or, you know what I mean? Maybe something to that factual could happen, and maybe could be presented in defense of his statements, I guess.
Hmm. Okay. I think perhaps. I think perhaps. I want to jump back to what Green Hipster was saying. Green Hipster stated that DMX played the song Slipping during a trial, and I think he got off because of it. So that's interesting. So it looks like DMX may have used his lyrics to actually help
That
him
is interesting. I didn't know that.
to help him in a trial, right? That's creative. Malcolm Coley says Stevie Wonder over R. Kelly all day. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, but Stevie Wonder is a legend. I mean, who's seeing Stevie Wonder?
A
Nobody really.
true legend.
Yeah, I don't think so, right? Okay. All righty. So let's see. So Quack 13 says he doesn't have to. Proof of the affair is grounds. He doesn't have to. Proof of the affair is grounds. Again, Quack 13, we are discussing this specific paragraph. In this specific paragraph, Mr. Bryant himself is alleging that the adulterous relationship is why she left the marriage. Paragraph 14. That's what he says. So,
Right,
hence,
right.
my question was, do you think he can prove that? Okay. That was my question.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's like the only other way, unless they had like a video, like a FaceTime, or maybe she wrote him a letter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now we get into how all these other companies are involved. We see that Rockland Records allegedly financed a lot of the luxuries and goods and transpo in these intimate liaisons with Mr. Bryant's wife. We see that R. Kelly Touring did similar things, right? We see that 865 Larrabee LLC allegedly did similar things. We see that Bass or Bass Productions allegedly did similar things, and so
And
on and so on. Go ahead, Diva.
Miss- and Miss Esquire, his touring company, you know what that is? That has to do with his buses.
Interesting. So I guess perhaps Mr. Bryant is alleging that his wife may have had liaisons with R. Kelly on a tour bus or on these tour buses.
Right. They were picking her up on the tour buses and stuff like that. Yup.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Black Anonymous says, I'm no R. Kelly apologist, but if all parties are consenting adults, I don't know how much ground the husband has to stand on. Well, Black Anonymous, is interesting that you say that because, as we discussed a bit earlier, I think before you came into the room, there are a few states where, yes, you can legally sue someone for causing the dysfunction or irrepair of your marriage. It's an actual legal cause of action. And Mississippi is one of those states.
Yeah, interference in the marriage, home wreckers. Yes, this
That's
is a
right.
real law in certain states. Yes, I was amazed too, man. Like, is this for real? Can
It's
this
for
really
real.
happen? It's just like the Mann Act. You see the Mann Act has so many different ways of being accused of doing the man act, whether you're having an affair behind your wife or you have a girlfriend and you're just long distancing the relationship. Like, it's a lot of scary things, but the law is the law at the end of the day, and every state has its own laws.
That is right. Diva's absolutely right on that. Alrighty, so to hop back into the lawsuit, same allegations for all of the companies, right? Now he goes on to bring Mississippi even more into the cause of action, right? Because remember, he's a resident of Mississippi already, but it doesn't hurt to tie things in. So he goes on in paragraph 22 to allege that R. Kelly was communicating with his wife while she was, of course, in the state of Mississippi. He then goes on to say that he also carried on in this affair with Miss Childress in Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, and some other states to lure Childress away from the plaintiff. Okay. And here he has some attached text messages as Exhibit A, which we'll get to the exhibits. I want to discuss really quickly why he says to lure her away, right? Remember that in lawsuits, every word used is pointed and purposeful, right? So when Bryant alleges that R. Kelly was luring Childress away, he is painting the picture of a woman in a happy marriage doing her own thing, living her life, in which R. Kelly then shows up and he pulls her out of the marriage. He pulls,
The
literally,
Pied
he lures
Piper.
someone away, you lead them away, right?
Mommy,
That is the
the
reason for
Pied
using that
Piper.
word.
The
There
Pied
you
Piper
go. The
came
Pied
through with
Piper
his
showed
flute.
up, played
He
his fiddle
played the flute and she came right along.
and lured her out, right? That's the language he has to use for this case because he's arguing that, again, but for R. Kelly and his meddling, his marriage would have been fine. Okay. All righty, so let's get back into it. So he then goes on to say that plaintiff was told that at some point before marrying him, so before marrying him, Asia Childress had some relationship with R. Kelly. However, he was told that that relationship had ended. Okay. So it looks like Childress has known R. Kelly for quite some time, allegedly, because she was with him before her husband and then allegedly while she was with her husband as well. Interesting. Now,
Yeah, and the judge, uh, judge that was assigned to the case originally wound up recusing herself because before she became a judge, he had asked her to be his attorney. So she had to recuse herself from the case. And they wound up getting a whole new judge for the case.
interesting. Oh, that's very, very interesting. You might have to look into that. Um, so as we can see, things went on, right? We can see that Mr. Bryant continues with his factual allegations, a few juicy tidbits, such as a few months after marrying Mr. Bryant, Childress started her affair with R. Kelly, allegedly. Now, this paragraph 25 is particularly interesting. In paragraph 25, Mr. Bryant alleges that his wife contracted chlamydia from R. Kelly, and that because of this, she did not have any intimacy with him from October 2012 until February 2013. This is important for two reasons, people. First reason, it is proof, right? It's circumstantial, but it's proof that Miss Childress had a physical relationship with R. Kelly. Now, of course, Mr. Bryant is going to want to get medical records and other things to kind of tie that in, right? To show that allegedly R. Kelly had chlamydia around the same time as his wife did, right?
Right.
But it's circumstantial proof that they were having a physical relationship. That's the first thing. And second, it's also circumstantial evidence that Mr. Bryant was suffering from lack of affection in his marriage, right? And that lack of affection was directly caused by R. Kelly.
And in the transcripts of R. Kelly's trial, his doctor that diagnosed him with the herpes back in 2000 and in the 99 or 2000, something like that. And then he also, in between that time, diagnosed him with gonorrhea and chlamydia from 2007 to 2017 or something like that.
Wow. So it
Yeah,
looks
he
like
actually tested R. Kelly like in 2007 or 8, something like that, or 9. And the herpes test came out inconclusive, but he wound up having gonorrhea and chlamydia.
it's already confirmed then that R. Kelly at least was diagnosed with chlamydia at some time,
At least
right? So
sometime. Yeah,
yeah, at some
exactly.
point. Interesting. Okay, Mr. Bryant. It's looking like Mr. Bryant might have a case here. Let's see. Now, here in paragraph 26, Mr. Bryant alleges that as his wife continued her affair with R. Kelly, she then suggested they move to Atlanta. He alleges that she wanted to move to Atlanta to be closer to Kelly. Um, I don't really get that because I thought Kelly lived in Illinois, but
No, remember he had a home in Georgia.
okay, he had a home there, so I guess he was there enough that I mean, mind you, I didn't doubt that he had property there, but I guess
Yeah,
yeah.
he had a home there. That's where he kept the girls. That was the girls' home. When he decided to have his harem of girls, they stayed in the property in Georgia that was under Cheryl Mack's name.
Interesting. You see why, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we bring on Diva. You see why? Because she's just a wealth of knowledge. Because I'm thinking in my mind, doesn't he live in Illinois? Like celebrities have properties everywhere, right? That's fine. But just because I have a property somewhere doesn't mean I'm ever actually there, you know?
So
But
yeah, he lives in Illinois. He's a registered resident of Illinois, but he has properties elsewhere.
it makes sense now when you say that that's where he kept the girls, so he's there
Yeah.
often. And then
Yeah,
that
he's
makes the
always back and
connection.
forth. Yep. Yep.
That
Yep.
makes the connection of why she would allegedly choose Atlanta. Okay. Alrighty. So now we see where the marriage gets rough. Let me tell you though.
Florida too. He had a home in
The,
Florida too.
uh-huh. The number one reason I think, right? And I say I think because I checked this a few years ago, so this could have changed. But a few years ago, when I looked into it, the number one reason people are getting divorced is finances. Okay, so this is going to get really interesting here. Now,
Ain't
paragraph
nothing going
28,
on but the rent.
plaintiff was unable to find profitable employment in Atlanta. So it looks like Miss Childress convinced her husband to move to Atlanta before he had found employment. And then they got there and then he couldn't find employment. Hmm. Paragraph 29. The move to Georgia was financially ruinous for plaintiff. Paragraph 30. As a result of her adulterous relationship with R. Kelly, Childress endeavored to live a lifestyle that surpassed her economic abilities and convinced Bryant to aid her in living beyond her means.
She's a gold digger.
Well, there's a lot for us to unpack there. So, first, we have to unpack this whole unable to find a job, financially ruinous comment, right? For those of you who may not be familiar with the Atlanta job market, listen, don't let anybody lie to you. That job market is a hot a mess.
Oh
It is
man.
not easy to find employment in that Atlanta job market. I would not recommend anyone move to Atlanta unless you already have a job, right? So, from what I know, I can vouch for this plaintiff, for Mr. Bryant saying he couldn't find a job, right? That probably happened. Okay. So now they're in financial ruin, allegedly. And because his wife is having this affair with R. Kelly, I guess R. Kelly takes her on trips and R. Kelly shows her the finer side of life. And so she feels that she should be able to have this same type of life at home, despite the fact
Right,
that her
right,
husband is allegedly unemployed.
Right. And she wants to find
Now,
the things in life that her husband can't give her that R. Kelly could.
now, here is where we get to the legal implication of this. This makes for a stronger lawsuit, and here is why. Even if Mr. Bryant has a hard time proving that R. Kelly really had this in depth romantic relationship with his wife, right? Even if he has a hard time proving that, once he can prove that the influence of R. Kelly altered his wife's psychological state regarding their marriage to the point where she wanted to leave, that's enough. And all of these things add
Right.
to that, right? So even if
Right.
R. Kelly wasn't really in it to win it, he was kind of like, she's a side piece, see her whenever, right?
Right.
Being with him changed her mindset so much it made her marriage unbearable for her. That's still enough to make this a valid lawsuit.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. And Robin, I love you.
All right, let me hop in the chat. Hello to Rockin' with the Truth. Hello to James Harris. Hello to Identity
Hey,
Withheld. And hello to Black Girl Beauty. Now, I want to mention something that James Harris
GG.
said. James Harris says that Bryant was allegedly a former policeman, so he could have found a job as a police officer.
Right.
Perhaps, maybe, but again, we're making the assumption that he could have actually gotten hired for that job,
Right.
right? Okay. All righty. This is
Well,
interesting.
maybe in the meantime, while they were there and all of that was going on, he couldn't find a job. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Who knows about,
Right.
after?
Never know. So now in paragraph 31, you see that Mr. Bryant is alleging that whenever R. Kelly would have a concert in a nearby state, his wife would disappear to go and be with R. Kelly. Okay.
And sit on the tour bus and give him lots of pleasure, allegedly.
Allegedly. Then it gets into Brian saying that he tried to keep his marriage together, but R. Kelly's continued intervention made that impossible. Okay. He then goes on to say that he is going to prove that R. Kelly did recklessly and or negligently injure him by depriving him of his wife's love, aid, support, protection, comfort, etc., etc., right? And that he will also prove that R. Kelly maliciously prejudiced his wife's mind against the plaintiff, which caused her to alienate her affections from the plaintiff.
That's R. Kelly. All he has to do is play the flute, sing a couple of notes, and the girls just come, like they say in Spanish, baja panty. That means pull down the panty. He's the panty man. Okay.
I like
That's
that
what
saying.
it is. Baja panty.
I mean, so as we can see in this paragraph, right? Everything that I was kind of foreshadowing for you in the beginning, right? They've just laid it out in this paragraph. The plaintiff is alleging that R. Kelly either recklessly or negligently, right? Now, if you're a newbie on this channel, you may not know the difference. If you're an OG, you know the difference. But anywho, allow me. This is pretty much alleging that R. Kelly either did not care about the damage that he would do to plaintiff and his marriage, or he knew about the damage he was doing and did it anyway. Okay, that's what they're alleging. Now, remember when I foreshadowed for you the fact that even if Mr. Bryant cannot prove that R. Kelly himself was really in it to win it with this affair, right? If he can prove the effect it had on his wife's state of mind, he's in there. That's what we have in the last portion, right? That R. Kelly's actions allegedly maliciously prejudiced Miss Childress's mind against the plaintiff. So, in other words, this affair with R. Kelly and the things he did to her and said to her, it turned her mind about her spouse. It turned her mind about her marriage. And that led her to stop loving and wanting to be with Mr. Bryant.
Ooh, master manipulator was at work and his wife was just being like, ooh, I am DIC magnetized.
Very, very interesting. What is it again, Diva? Baja Panty.
Baja panties. Yes, girl. That's R. Kelly.
Baja Panties. Hello to Teddy Woodson. Teddy Woodson says, "Where is his wife now? This could be a money grab for him and his wife if they are still together." Anything on that, Diva?
I believe they had a divorce. They wound up going through a divorce. So they are no longer together.
Uh-huh. Okay. So Teddy Woodson, supposedly they're no longer together. Black Girl Beauty says financial, mental, and bodily harm. That's right. That is right.
Very good,
Financial
BG. Yes,
harm
ma'am.
because he left his employment to move to Atlanta where he couldn't find employment. And allegedly, this was because his wife wanted to be with R. Kelly, right? Mental harm because we know mentally that he was harmed by his wife just all of a sudden no longer wanting him, right?
Right. He
And then
probably got
bodily harm,
depressed.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then bodily harm because he's not receiving the physical affection from his wife anymore.
Right. No hugs, no kisses, no loving, no doving in the bed. You don't
Right,
know.
right. And everybody needs that. Everybody needs love.
Right. That's right.
So now we get into paragraph 34, right? And we see that he says that they communicated in various methods, which we heard before. He now gets into the tortious interference with his marriage, which is legalese for you interfered with my marriage in a way that I can sue you for. That's it.
This was
Okay.
torture.
Yeah. So tortious means so in the legal world a tort is a personal injury, right? So it is when one person does something to another person and it injures them. That's what a tort is. So here they're just
Okay.
saying you've injured this man with your interference in his marriage. That's
Bendito, he got a broken heart.
right. Poor thing, really. Now, plaintiff goes on to say here that he's going to prove that R. Kelly did, as he said previously, cause his marriage to pretty much dissolve, and that he no longer got the comfort and companionship and all these things that he initially had in his marriage. He then goes on to specifically say that he didn't get conjugal relations from his wife, right? That's intimacy. Okay. And he goes on to list kind of the same support that we've already seen previously. Then he gets into infliction of emotional distress. We've already covered emotional distress at length in this on this channel, so you can visit any of our previous videos. You can visit the Astro World video. You can visit the Africa Bambata video, where we discuss, and plenty of others, right? Where we talk about intentional infliction of emotional distress and reckless infliction of emotional distress. Reckless infliction of emotional distress is legalese for Robert Kelly did not care if his actions were going to hurt or harm Kenny Bryant. He didn't care. He just did it anyway, knowing
He
that it
did it.
could and not care.
Everything has to be for R. Kelly's gratification. It doesn't matter who he hurts, who he has to knock down, who he has to pay to get his way. It does not matter. It's a pattern of behavior with this man.
Precisely. And now in paragraph 40, they get into that, right? They say that R. Kelly should have been able to foresee, right? So here where they say that R. Kelly's actions were a foreseeable cause of the injury that plaintiff incurred. They're saying, hey, R. Kelly should have been able to, predict that having an affair with Mr. Bryant's wife would hurt Mr. Bryant, right?
Right, right. He knew he had she had a husband. He knew.
There you go. There you go. Pretty simple. Now, there's something I want to point out. Miss Jam says, hello to Miss Jams, by the way. She says, the wife was wrong too.
Oh
Diva, do you
yeah,
have
she
a
definitely
comment on
was. Yeah, the wife was definitely, listen, she was definitely wrong. She was no innocent person in this. She wanted to be with R. Kelly from the jump. She decided to get into another relationship with another man, probably to forget about R. Kelly. Couldn't forget about R. Kelly, married this man, and then decided to continue her relationship with R. Kelly. She's totally wrong. And I think she should be paying him alimony.
that? All right, then, Diva. And let me say, yes, the wife had an adulterous affair. right? However, as we previously stated, in the state of Mississippi, you can sue someone for having an affair with your spouse. I mean, and that's not to say that Miss Childress was right in what she did, right? That's not to say she's blameless,
Right.
but legally, he can sue R. Kelly for his portion of what occurred. That's how
Right.
that works.
Me being Kenny, if I was Kenny, I would have sued her, like I said, make sure she's paying me alimony every month. And Mr. Kelly, he paying me every month too.
Interesting. All righty, let's get back into it. So we see that he goes into exactly how he has been damaged, right? So, what did he lose? Here in paragraph 43, he says he experienced extreme emotional distress, both in the past, in the present, and that he probably will experience these same things in the future, right? And honestly, that's pretty basic, right? Imagine the
Yeah.
typical distress that comes along with a partner cheating on you. You
Right.
know,
You don't ever want to find love again, or you know if you won't know if you ever will, or you don't want to, or you distrust in
Mhm.
women, or men, things like that happen. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Section B, subsection B, he again talks about losing the consortium, losing the emotional support and physical support of his wife, and also losing the family life, right? So that family, because you can imagine that Mr. Bryant intended on raising his children with Miss Childress, right, and not on getting divorced.
And Kia, Empress Kia, R. Kelly does have money, honey. He gets royalties every 3 months. He gets compensated royalties of $200,000. So he gets $800,000 a year, and that's not including what's on the streaming services. And besides that, his supporters give him plenty of commissary money while he's in jail. So he's good.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you for clearing that up for us, Diva, because I've heard that rhetoric a lot. I've heard that R. Kelly doesn't have money. I've heard that being said a lot. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's a fair
Sony
setup.
and Sony pays him $1 million every year. They had a contract because remember he had to make two more albums for Sony before he even thought about getting his masters. And that takes a 30-year time. After 30 years, then you can ask for your masters back. So he needed to put out some more albums, but in order for Sony not to get sued by breaching contract or them suing R. Kelly for breaching contract, they parted ways on a good term. You know what I mean? They made an agreement to part ways so nobody sues anybody. So R. Kelly is still getting paid. He is.
Diva,
He's
is it
good.
me or do you hear that noise? Do you hear that noise, Diva?
No, that's me. That's my son's chat going in my background.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure. I'm like, is it me? Am I imagining
It's his
that? Okay.
friends. No, it's his friends chatting. They're texting him. I don't know how to turn it off.
Okay. So let's dive back into it, shall we? Now, subsection C, he of course says that he wants to also be awarded attorney's fees. Everyone, it is the norm for a plaintiff to request attorney's fees. That is totally normal for a plaintiff to say, Your Honor, if you are to award me damages, please include my fees, right? And many of these plaintiffs with these types of cases, personal injury and torts and things like that, their attorney takes the case on something called contingency, right? Contingency pretty much means the lawyer does not get paid unless you get paid. Okay? That's how that works. Contingent.
Oh, wow. So that kind of like pro bono?
No, so pro bono is totally free. Contingency is
Oh,
just I get paid a percentage of what you end up getting paid from the defendant. That's
oh, okay, okay, like a 3% or something like that.
right. 3% is really low, by the way.
No, no,
But
I'm just saying.
yes,
I'm just
a
making, yeah,
percentage.
right, like a
Yeah, a percent.
percentage. Okay.
Yeah, that's contingency. All right. And then they get into punitive damages, asking the court to award damages specifically for the purpose of punishing R. Kelly for his behavior. Okay. And let me tell you, in a state like Mississippi, punitive damages for this sort of case are possible. You have to remember, for those of you, because I know we're all over the world, we're all over the country, right? But take it from a Southern girl. The South is serious about marriage, very serious about marriage, right? Hence the reason that you can even sue someone for being with your spouse in Mississippi, right? So
Right.
punitive damages for being with someone else's spouse is not a reach in the South. Okay. Alrighty. He quotes some of the Mississippi code that applies to the damages that he's requesting. Okay. And then he gets really Southern. Listen to this. R. Kelly's, here in paragraph 47, R. Kelly's wanton and reckless interference with plaintiff's marriage relationship, his blatant disregard for family values, and his uncondoned and unrelenting adulterous relationship. Wow. I mean,
That's
they, no, go ahead, Diva.
I said that's deep. How much do you think he could get money for? How much money do you think he could get awarded? Like 1 million?
Yeah, he could get awarded. I would say it could be as little as 500,000, right? Or it could be as much as 2 to 3 million. That's typically the norm for this
Wow.
kind of, yeah, it could be, right? But again, that depends on A, what he's able to prove. So not just, what he kind of alleges in this complaint, but what he can actually prove. And then B, if he does have a jury trial, a jury is going to have to assess, what they think his injuries are really worth.
Right, right. And the husband's requesting a jury trial, right?
Yes, he's requesting one. Yes. Okay. So yes, very Southern statement there. His blatant disregard for family values. I can totally see a Southern judge pontificating about that. So, and then they wrap it on up, right? I think this is a very concisely written complaint. And then you see his attorneys have signed this complaint. Now, quick note. You may be wondering, which you may not be, but maybe you were, why you see Dorsey R. Carson Jr. here, but then you see S. Anna Powers here. And then you see that S. Anna Powers actually signed this complaint. Diva, are you wondering why S. Anna Powers is the person who signed the complaint?
Well, I was thinking it's probably because she's the one who wrote it.
Uh-huh. Now that's a good point. That's a good point. It probably is because she wrote it, but another thing to note is what you see here is a common practice for a senior attorney and a junior attorney, right? So very
Oh,
often you will have the senior attorney listed as the first name here, right? Because they're kind of in a supervisory capacity. And then you have your junior attorney listed on the second line, and your junior attorney would do all the signatures and things like that because they're actually, as Diva said, writing the complaint, right?
oh, okay, okay. Interesting.
That's
I never
the
knew
norm.
that.
Yeah, that's the norm. That's the norm, right? But of course, I have to say this because of the internet sleuths. That doesn't mean that's what happened here. Okay. It's just I'm
Right,
speaking in general terms.
right.
Okay.
Exactly. Everything is alleged.
Everything's alleged. Okay. And then you see the name of his firm here, and you see, and it looks like I might be right. You know why, Diva?
Carson Law Group.
Carson Law Group and Carson. So I think I might be correct here that Anna Powers is the junior attorney. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we get into the exhibits. Okay. Wow.
Dun,
Now
dun,
here we
dun.
Asia Chowdhury allegedly talking to R. Kelly. Allegedly.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is interesting. Wait
This
till you
was
see his
very interesting.
response, guys.
Oh my goodness. So let's see. So uh Diva, are you gonna be Asia or R. Kelly?
Uh, uh, you could be Asia. I'll be R. Kelly.
Okay. November 22nd, 2014. I've tried to repress my feelings, but I'm sure they were made evident. I often think of could've, would've, should've, but out of all, one thing is certain: my love for you. Daddy, please know that I wouldn't do anything to place you in any harm. I wish you nothing but love, peace, and continuous prosperity. I'll love you always, Asia.
Come. CUM.
I'm sorry, but how does
Okay.
someone write you this? This profession of
What-
undying love. And
Lord,
this
I
is your response.
cannot.
I mean, can you imagine this? Do you see this paragraph of just professing her undying love here?
And this is what he's thinking about. Come.
And then she says, just say when, Asia.
Like,
Okay.
what? I saw that
This
and
is
I
just
was like,
something else.
what? I cannot.
I
This is
mean,
what
this
he was
looks like
thinking. His
she,
thought pattern was just come quickly now. Like, I need to see you. It's not even about come, COME, come over here. It's just so
no,
weird.
no.
I cannot.
It's very strange. And I mean, I'm not even going to bother acting out this second page, okay? Because this is Miss Asia talking to herself. So, I mean, bless her
Right.
heart. But this is he's not even responding here.
He
Okay,
didn't even
so we're
respond. That's like what he did with a lot of the girls. He wouldn't respond for hours or days at a time.
not going to do that. Okay? And now we're on the next page here. Okay, it looks like this is something that he might respond to. So now we see here on September 18th, 2016. So follow us here. Remember here on this first page, it was 2014. Now here on this third page, it's 2016. So she's at
Right.
least
So
been touching him for at least 2
right.
years.
Right. That's what he was proving. That's his proof of how long the affair was. And if you see 2016, this is when the Clarys and the Savages came out complaining about R. Kelly holding the girls hostages. And in
Mm-hmm.
that other text, when she said, sorry that things are going wrong and things like that, things started happening little by little with R. Kelly. People were
Now,
still screaming rumors.
I want to note something and address something that's in the chat. So Quack13 said she called him daddy. Sound familiar? Sure
Yes,
does. Sure
yes.
does. This is yet
Everybody got to
another
call him daddy.
right. And guess what? That goes towards what? Proving that this is actually R. Kelly she's speaking to, because she's using the
Right,
same lingo that the other women that have been connected to him have used when speaking to him.
right. Patterns of
Right.
behavior.
There you go. And all of that context goes right back to solidifying that, okay, she was actually speaking to R. Kelly. Now, I also wanted to discuss this very quickly. Sheba says, I don't get why women call men daddy. My dad is the only man I'm calling daddy. So I want to address this. And, we're about to have a real talk moment. We're about to have a Felicia speaking to you, and not just Empowered Esquire speaking to you, right?
Right.
Um, Now, I do not have the study to link, right? But I believe, based upon some studies that I have read, that there is a connection between the P word, you guys know that PEDO, right?
Uh-huh.
And men who request that women call them daddy. The entire requesting that a woman call a man something that is supposed to be her male parental figure, right? The whole culture of having women dress up as babies or baby girls or school girls, right? That whole culture is all an offshoot of PEDO culture.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any man who requests for a woman to dress as a young girl has a PEDO mind.
Hmm.
And for me, as far as the daddy situation, see, I call my husband daddy, but I call him daddy in a sense of mama and papa, not
Right.
in the sense of, oh, daddy, give it to me. Yeah, no, no. Um, it's more of a term of endearment as far as mama and papa's concerned in the home.
And that makes sense. And I'm glad you made that distinction, right? Because when parents have children, they may call each other, oh, hey mommy, hey daddy, and it's not in that way. It's kind of like a shared language with the children, because the children are also calling them mommy and daddy, right? But we know that that's not this situation.
Right. This situation is, ay, papi, dámelo.
Yeah, you're right. This is not, yeah, okay. But thank you for making that distinction, Diva, because yeah, that's a distinction. All right. Okay, so now we have the proof. We see here where Asia says to R. Kelly, allegedly, last year I relocated to Georgia, all in hopes of wanting to show you how I genuinely feel about you. I can't speak for him, but this is an all time low for me. I hate this happened. Interesting. Well, we don't know what happened, but maybe it's the savages. Maybe she's
That
alluding to savages.
yes, the stuff that was happening at that time. Yes, ma'am.
Interesting. And it looks like she really did want to be in Georgia so she could be closer to the alleged harem. Very interesting.
Right. Exactly why I said that, because to give you guys that information so that you can see that in this text at that time in 2016, this was going on. People were making stink about R. Kelly and saying he had a harem of women and a sex cult and all these things. So her text message pertains to the mess that was going on.
Interesting. And we can see further proof of that, right? You see, she says, my prayer is that I hope this mess that someone else created doesn't affect us. I mean, in all this mess, she's still
Exactly.
thinking, oh, please still be with me. Wow, this woman is something else. She then goes
She
on,
was DIC-matized. Yes, she
I
was.
mean, wow. She
A
then
lot
goes
of them
on,
are.
I mean, by a man who allegedly didn't bathe. Anyway. Um,
Bendito, es que he's a star, so people don't see that. They go past the funk. You feel me?
she then goes on to say, I often pray for you and the ones around you. I have and won't attempt to jeopardize anything about you. Oh my goodness. In all honesty, I love and care about you. Girl, we get it.
Bye.
Ooh, okay. So that
Wait,
looks,
wait, back up, back up, back up. You see
yes.
this one right here? You see this text right here? Yes, that one right there, mommy. That it says, "Why
You
will
will be
be
subpoenaed.
he will be." He sent this. He screenshotted the text that her and him were having a conversation and sent it to him to let him know
Oh, to R.
you will
Kelly
be
to let him know
subpoenaed.
you will be
Yes, he did.
subpoenaed.
He sent it. Yes, he sent it to R. Kelly.
Uh-huh. You see why we have Diva here? Wow. Okay. So
Mhm.
he put R. Kelly on notice, like, sir, I'm coming
Yes,
for
he
you.
did. Yes,
Okay.
and on the bottom he says something about a home cuz show this to Asia. See, you should have left my wife alone.
Uh-huh. My family alone, it looks like.
Right,
Interesting.
family alone. Yes,
Okay.
family alone. Yep.
Now we see that Asia says something here, and she says to R. Kelly, as you can see, he took what I sent you almost 2 years ago, describing to you how deep my feelings are. I'm sorry to say, but he is upset because those feelings were never communicated to him.
Now, why is she keeping texting her phone from 2 years ago from her messing around with R. Kelly? Like, what? She don't know how to play her game. She a dumb dumb. That's
Here's
why she
what I
got.
don't understand. Forget about her being a dum dum on keeping old text messages, right? That's a ditto. But what I
Right,
don't
like what?
understand is this woman is outright admitting that she never cared about the man she married.
She didn't care about her husband at all. She don't give a
What?
shit. She didn't
She's
care
literally
at
saying that
all.
she's like, he's upset because I never
Yep.
communicate. Then why did you marry him? I don't
Bendito,
understand.
that's what I said. She was using him. See, like I said, she's a freaking abuser herself, man.
That's crazy to me. That is crazy. Wow.
She a
Okay.
gold digger. That's why she left him. She's like, oh, well, you can't give me what R. Kelly could give me. And he gives me good DI, Dino,
Oh my
So
goodness.
I'm going to roll
And
where
then she's
that
still
goes.
begging R. Kelly to pay attention to her.
Right,
She hopes he's having a tremendous Tuesday. He doesn't care.
right.
Um,
And he don't even care. He didn't even respond.
People, this just blew my mind to see this back and forth. And let me tell you what this communication also establishes from a legal standpoint. I'm going to tell you. It establishes how warped her mind was when it came to R. Kelly. I think it does go towards establishing that it really is this relationship with R. Kelly that caused her to view her marriage as such a horrible thing. You know, I think it
Right.
does go towards that because here you can see that she's in like this desperation for R. Kelly, almost as if he's done
Yes.
some sort of
Voodoo.
brainwashing to her. Right. I mean, there's something going on here, right? Because
They
it's
did
like
say that R. Kelly allegedly does voodoo. He has a voodoo doctor on call.
very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's almost like a zombie. It's like a zombie just, I love you. I love you. Hope you're having a tremendous day. You're amazing. You're great. Even though they're not even getting a response.
Well, a lot of these girls, they say that when it came to the bedroom with R. Kelly, everything was very mechanical,
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
directed, very, it wasn't, it wasn't like, oh, hey, booby, I love you. Come here. We hug, we kiss, and we slowly work into things and, make passionate love as adults would. No, it's come over here, bend over, grab you by your hair, spank you, shove it in you, things of this nature. It's horrifying intercourse.
Wow. Wow. Well, let me say this. For those of you who have maybe not joined the channel for a for an R. Kelly convo yet, welcome. This
It's
is
very dangerous in this
right.
room,
This is
y'all.
rated adults only. This is rated 18 and up. Okay, I'll probably put it in the description. But this
Please
is
do.
not
Thank
one of
you.
those children friendly type conversations.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Hello to Miss Charisse. Hello, thank you for joining us. We're winding down now, but we appreciate you joining us anyway.
Hey,
So
baby girl.
Diva, I actually did want to talk to you some more, but I'm getting
Yeah.
calls and text messages, and I have
Okay.
a family member who's ill, so I
Oh
think I need
no,
to
I'm
take
sorry
those.
about that, baby. I hope
Yeah,
they get well.
thank you so much. So I think I need to go take those phone calls and see what's going
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
Um, so, as Sheba Mooncat says, like, share, and subscribe. The link to Miss Diva's channel is in the chat, as well as I have pinned her Cash App as well as mine. If you would
Thank
like to
you.
give to our amazing guest, I highly encourage that. I couldn't encourage it more. Not only is she so knowledgeable on this topic, she's an awesome person. All right, so
Thank
check
you.
her
Thank
out.
you.
I gotta run. Listen, I
Yes,
love you
thank you,
all.
guys.
Thank you for
Yes, I
joining
love
me
you
for
too. And
another
everyone,
episode.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone. Love you too, Diva. I gotta
Yes,
run.
love you too, Mama.
All right.
Peace.
Bye, y'all.